Hello everyone and welcome to this live on Adolescent Dog Socialization. My name is Karishma War. I am a certified dog trainer and I'm head of training and behaviour at Calm Canine Academy, and working with adolescent dogs, especially in an urban environment, has been like a focus of my career for the last 6 years. So I'm really psyched to have this conversation. I think there's a lot of really interesting things that we can talk about, and I have some great questions from our community as well. So I thought I'd start off today by just going through some of the big points that I think are really important to hit when discussing adolescent dog socialization, and then we'll go into some individual questions from our community. So let's start off at the beginning and just discuss the definition of adolescent dog socialization. What does this even mean? I just want to get rid of the comments section. So, sorry, I'm trying to remove this. So anyway, in general, I get this question a lot when I talk about puppy socialization. People are like, well, how do I socialize my adolescent dog? And adolescent dogs between the age of 6 months and 3 years. It really depends on the breed. But how do I socialize my adolescent dog? First of all, just quickly, socialization as a term really only applies to puppies because they have this critical period, this socialization period in early puppyhood. Adolescent dogs, I would usually use the word exposure over socialization. The idea being that we are exposing this now not puppy to the stimulus of the world. I have another live all about adolescence in general, which you can definitely check out if you want to learn a little bit more. But just the kind of high-level overview of adolescence is that we think that things get really easy after puppyhood, but actually we have this period of multiple years where our dogs look like adults but absolutely are not adults. They do not have an adult brain. They're lacking, literally lacking parts of their brain that need to develop, and this often means that they can be challenging to live and work with, just like human adolescents. So this means often they can be more sensitive to certain things. They are very imprintable, so if something really good or bad happens, that can be a really big deal and affect them a lot more than in adulthood. And they have a lot of changeability and variability in their behaviour. So what I'm going to discuss with you today is a few different things that you should be keeping in mind as you explore the world with your adolescent. And the first thing is this idea of being prepared for changes. I think lots of people think oh, they're not a puppy anymore, woohoo, but nope. The whole of that period between 6 months and 3 years old, we see a lot of variability in their behaviour. Dogs that previously were really absolutely fine with people, or that you thought they were absolutely fine with people, can develop some anxieties, fears, sensitivities. Dogs that previously thrived in large groups of dogs can become selective, and dogs that were environmentally really solid can show anxieties, reactivities, etc. My biggest thing I can say is if you do see these changes, do not ignore them and expect them to go away. We have to address them with our animals, and you have to listen to them if they say that they're scared or they're anxious. Believe them and respond. So be prepared for changes in your dog's behaviour between the ages of 6 months and 3 years. Be prepared for them to express new anxieties, new fears, and new support needs, and then adjust your behaviour to help them. The second thing that I want to chat about today with adolescent dogs is about safety and advocation. We look at adolescent dogs and we think that they're adults, but they're not adult dogs, and they are babies, they are children. And I think about that now when I think about 16-year-old humans. I'm like, wow, you are really young, actually. 14-year-old humans, you're actually really young. And at 14, I definitely thought that I could take on the world, but I had no idea how to keep myself safe. And I got in a lot of trouble because of that. And when I say advocate for your dog's safety needs, what I mean is that making sure that they're not put in situations that they can't handle, right? Your adolescent dog might say to you, oh no, I would love to go and greet all 6 of those Labradors at the same time without any calming experience beforehand to kind of center myself. My adolescent dog told me that he needed to go and play fetch in the park for 2 hours every day, but that's not good for him. It's not good for his physical needs. It's not good for so don't listen to your teenage animals when they say, if they say, oh, I can handle this, yeah, of course. You have to be the one to keep them feeling safe, and essentially set boundaries for them, because they might not be able to do it themselves. So the example I have here is, very frequently adolescent dogs can struggle with people coming into their home, whereas puppies maybe are a little bit more affiliative and just like, woohoo, whatever. If your adolescent dog starts struggling, you have to advocate for their need for safety, right? And that usually means making sure that they're not experiencing the scary stimulus of that individual, of that person coming in through the door. Or if your adolescent dog starts being reactive on walks for the first time, and they're showing fearful body language, to advocate for their safety, you would likely need to reduce their walks or keep them away from the scary triggers or whatever. So we're really focusing on advocating for what they need to be healthy, happy, and safe, and that what you're advocating for might change, right? You have to be flexible, because they might be okay with something when they're 1 year old, but then not okay with it when they're 2 years old, etc. So be prepared to respond to them, rather than just going, oh, I know my dog likes this, my dog doesn't like this, because that can change. So be prepared, and be prepared to be the voice that keeps them safe. Number 3 is, I call it being the cool parent. Adolescent dogs are much more likely to be disinterested in their caregivers and their guardians, and more interested in environmental reinforcers. They might struggle with hypersociability, really needing to go and say hi to people or dogs. So we need to really raise our game as guardians. We need to be giving them high value reinforcers and being the source of high value reinforcers, really good food, really good toys, as well as other creative reinforcers that you can work on with a trainer, hopefully, or a coach. Now is not the time to be bringing out kibble on your walks. Now is the time to be cutting up chicken. So really think about being the cool parent. Don't be stingy. Really get good reinforcers to use with your dogs, because it's going to be so powerful for you and them as you bond together over this period of time. You're going to become a team. But if you're trying to give your dog kibble and they're blowing you off because there's a group of dogs playing on the other side of the park, sorry, you're going to have to step it up and become a cool parent with access to all of the amazing reinforcers. So we got one last little tip here, and then we can take some questions and apply some of these to the questions. My last little tip here, number 4, is to be their safe space. Now, when I say be their safe space, what I mean is that we want like a secure attachment with the guardians and the caregivers, so that the dogs can explore the world with that point of safety to retreat to. And this will really mean avoiding using punishment, coercion, or intimidation to control your dog's behavior, not lying to your dog, not tricking them, being honest and consistent and kind and gentle. If we use punishment, coercion, intimidation, there will be fallout, especially during this period of time. So this is not the time to start yelling at your dog and becoming confrontational with them. This is the time to be understanding and to advocate for their needs, and not put them in positions where they're going to then panic, and then you're going to feel the need to punish them, right? Because that's when we feel the need to punish them, is when we put them in situations that they can't handle, and then we go, why can't you do this? I want you to really advocate for their needs, so that you can then be their safe space and not feel those frustrated feelings as much. And so you can have a really good and easy and a nice teamwork kind of style of communication, rather than a bully and the bullied. So I wanted to go into some questions now. Those are my big 4 things. I guess I'm interested in hearing for folks what resonated out of those with you, and I'm going to take some questions now. So I've got some already from our community, and if you have any, please pop them in the comments section, or let me know what experiences you've had with your adolescent dogs. So, good question here. The first one is, my adolescent dog has fear of odd things, in quotation marks, helmets, bikes, suitcases, and children. How do I desensitize? So it sounds like many adolescent dogs, as we discussed, we're seeing some sensitivity around unpredictable things, maybe things that they weren't exposed to as much in early life, and things that just can be a little bit spooky. So like different head attire, things that roll or move quickly or kind of surprise them. How to desensitize? Well, let's look at the framework. So we've first of all got to say, okay, this is not unusual for an adolescent dog, so there's nothing wrong with their behavior. This is quite normal. What are we going to do? We're going to advocate for their needs for safety. And it sounds like your dog's likely quite overwhelmed, maybe even scared of those stimulus. So let's avoid that stimulus. That might mean limiting walks. It might mean going to quiet places, getting in the car and driving, etc. And then when it comes to desensitization or changing how the dog feels about that stimulus, there are many different ways to do this. But usually my biggest piece of advice that I'm going to give to you is that if your dog is scared of people with bike helmets, I do not want you going out onto the street and just trying to work with random people with bike helmets that pop out of shops and turn up and etc. In our Feisty Fido group program for reactive dogs or fearful dogs, we call these ninja sessions. So you're on a walk with your dog, you see a squirrel, you see a person in a hat, you see a bike, and you do a training session. Dogs in adolescence, I find, do not do very well with ad hoc kind of ninja training sessions that happen throughout the day, and they do much better with set up learning experiences. So if you want your dog to start becoming more neutral towards things like other dogs, squirrels, I'm seeing questions about children, I'm seeing things about strangers in the comments section. If you want to desensitize your dog to those triggers, you are not going to be going out in New York, going out in London, going out in LA, and just doing random sessions with completely uncontrollable dogs, people, and children. You will be recruiting friends, family members to wear bike helmets, to go on scooters, to stand with their dogs in a park, and be a helper dog for you as you work around those triggers. Now, I cannot go into all the different pieces of the puzzle that go into desensitizing dogs to different triggers. I would definitely check out our reactivity guide for more details about this. So our guide on reactivity is a nice place to start. What I can tell you is that you are not going to be doing this on an ad hoc basis with random triggers that pop up. You're likely going to be doing this in setups. And someone's in the comments saying, what if high value treats don't work? Meat and cheese are not enough. If there are other dogs or animals around, likely we'll need to start with just getting the dog to a point where they are eating in a field or a park or a quiet street. And then we'll start from whatever distance the dog is able to eat, using tricks of the trade that we have, obviously, to get this working smoothly. But if your dog is unable to eat in the setups that you've done so far, that doesn't mean that they're never going to be able to eat. It means that you likely need a professional eye on the situation to get the details in place that are going to have you be successful. So my big things here are going to be advocate for their sense of safety, their safety. Do not put them in situations where they're panicking. Give them distance as much as possible. And then when we do start working on this, when we do work on it in our private and group programs, for example, we'll start off by building a bunch of skills indoors and around distractions that are not the trigger that we're working on, and then we bring them around the distractions. So I wouldn't just get the dog that we've got in the comments here who is struggling to eat around dogs and just put a collar and leash on them and take them around dogs and work them. Absolutely not. There'd be 4 weeks of a training program where they're building the skills, developing the ability to eat in stressful situations, developing the ability to eat with distractions, etc. So there's a lot that goes into it, I think. My adolescent dog has a fear of thresholds suddenly. Entering pubs and cafes were fine, but now she gets a bit nervous, but when she's inside, she's fine. That's interesting. I don't know exactly what's going on there, to be honest. It could be that she's nervous of entering the environment. It could be to do with the space and the pressure of going through that. door, I would definitely take a video of it the next time so that you can show it to a trainer. Oh, my 20-month-old rescue dog will only go for a walk with both of us. 20-month-old, so that's definitely still within adolescence. So that might be part of why we're seeing the change in that behavior, right? And it could be to do with like separation related issues. It could be that the dog feels more comfortable and safe with two humans, and so there could be some fear related things going on underneath that behavior. Honestly, until I know more about what's going on, it's going to be impossible to give you specific advice. So I'm going to definitely suggest that you speak to someone about that. Hi everyone, hello. Let me keep looking at these questions, one moment. Ooh, this is a good one. Limited access to good friend dogs for play dates. So with adolescent dogs, socializing is so important. Socializing is so important for many of them. Lots of adolescent dogs will need access to play with other dogs, often other adolescent dogs as well. So in the US, Sniff Spots is a really great tool that you can use to get, like, you can rent out basically little fields or gardens, and then you can meet up with people. But if you don't know many people with dogs, your job is going to be to meet people with dogs. So you could go on Facebook, you could go training centers, tricks classes, dog meetups, get on Tinder, start finding people in your area that have dogs and try and be their friend, so that you can make just one or two dog friends, and then you can consistently give your dog meet their social needs. Because a lot of dogs, if they don't have their social needs met, especially in adolescence, they could become reactive, they could lose their social skills, etc. And then the last question I'm going to take: fallout from over-socializing and any signs that is happening. Whew, what a good question. I talk about over-socializing with puppies a lot, which is this thing that I see guardians do where they're so desperate to expose their dogs to everything that they want the dog to be neutral about, that they actually kind of shove it down their throats, and it can be quite stressful and pressuring for the dog, and ultimately the dog ends up behaving worse because they're feeling unsafe, they're feeling overwhelmed. With adolescent dogs, just like with puppies, I think what I'm going to go for here is I'm looking for overwhelmingly positive experiences. Not okay experiences, not meh, not, oh, they were not scared the whole time, they were only shook at the beginning. Oh, they barked for a few minutes, but then they stopped. I'm looking for actually really high quality experiences, because their experiences shape their conception of the world. They're creating a blueprint for what is safe or isn't safe at this age, as their neurochemistry and their brain is developing. So I'm looking for high quality experiences with people and dogs, quality over quantity. And signs that things are going downhill are maybe that you're getting like hit or miss. Sometimes she's fine, sometimes she isn't. That's not overwhelmingly positive. So let's go back to that advocacy piece. Are we advocating for our dog's needs enough? Or are we putting them in situations where actually they're drowning, they're sinking, they're not swimming? So I think that's a really good question about over-socializing, about overexposure. We call that flooding in behavior terminology, flooding the animal. We're trying to habituate them, desensitize them, but it's happening at such a big level that they can't handle it, and ultimately it's going to make things worse in the long run. Really good question. All right. If the dog isn't interested in treats and just chases, does that mean the dog is stressed or just enjoys a bit of sport? It's a good question. Certainly, like a sort of chasing that's really hyper fixated, it's really difficult to interrupt, can be a sign of like a dysregulated nervous system. It also can be unsafe and unhealthy. And in general, when animals are totally unable to think, I am questioning whether or not that's a positive experience for them. And yes, they might enjoy it. It might be super fun, but when I was 15, I enjoyed going clubbing for 12 hours in warehouses in East London. It was not good for me. Right? So like, they might enjoy it. Is it something that I want to encourage in that way? Probably not. Would I maybe harness that love of chase and buy a rabbit hide toy on a bungee chaser that I can literally make my own prey animal and be the person who controls that, so that I can teach my dog more appropriate ways to go through the world? I maybe would think about that a little bit. Last one here before I finish up. My 19-month German Shepherd lunges and barks at dogs, people, cars and bicycles. That is an adolescent German Shepherd. Yeah, you got a protection dog. So you got a dog that was bred to lunge and bark at dogs, people, cars and bicycles. So there's going to be a lot of work that goes into making sure that dog stays feeling safe enough that they don't have to lunge and bark at these things, and then teaching them a new way to interact with those that stimulus. Likely you're going to be doing multiple weeks, maybe even multiple months of work away from the triggers to strengthen the communication, and then we take that work around triggers. But I think especially when looking at an 18-month adolescent German Shepherd, I'm like, yep. That's what they're gonna do. That's what's gonna happen. So there's nothing wrong with your dog. You just have a dog that requires a little bit more, I think. I mean, I don't know. I have no idea. I haven't met your dog. I know nothing about them. So please don't use this as an alternative for like actually having someone take a look at your case. Because I don't know, but it doesn't hugely surprise me. Let's put it that way. Thank you. I love that idea of creating a blueprint. It's a great way to think about it and keeping it. I always keep it in mind. Yeah, really, that is. Thank you for highlighting that. Creating a blueprint is exactly what's happening with adolescent dogs. So I'll leave you with that. And hopefully you found those 4 tips helpful. If you're watching this and you have questions, pop your questions in the comment section. Please do, like, comment, share, etc. And I want to know what worked for you and your adolescent dog. Are you in the middle of adolescence? If you come out the other side, let us know in the comment section and we can keep the conversation going. Thank you, everybody. If you want to learn more about CCA, our private programs or our group programs, you can DM us with the keywords coaching. And we have just started a new subscription service on Instagram. So if you want, you can give us €5 a month and you get access to a bunch of exclusive stuff, more like this, and you get to really shape the content that we create. Maybe I'll see you over in the subscription service for our subscriber live later on. All right, thank you, everyone. Goodbye, have a good day, and I'll see you soon.